Okay, we're going to go this time. We're going to whip out another purple one here. There we go. Voila, we got another piece. Nice straight stitch all the way down. I just start cutting strips of fabric and start sewing them together. And then next thing you know, out comes a kite. I'm known as Mr. Kite. My real name is Craig Christensen, but people all over have known me by the name of Mr. Kite, and I answer to both. Live here in Webster, Minnesota, and been making kites for about 20-some years.
There, we got wind now.
It's unique in a ways, but if you stop and talk to people, somewhere in their life there's been some kites involved. They've had an uncle that's made kites, or their dad used to make kites. You've always got somebody that comes up and gives you a kite story.
Just give it a little tug on the line.
I've had a love for flying from day one. My father was an airline pilot, and I was basically raised around airplanes. I got into model airplanes very heavy in the early years, and it got to be just a little much. Didn't have enough time to keep putting airplanes together, so wandered into a kite shop, found some kind of neat looking kites, and bought a couple $100 worth of them. Then one winter day it was way too windy to fly model airplanes, and decided, well, let's get some of them kites out and see how they go, you know. Well, that was it. All of a sudden I'm hooked. I was about 40 years old or better, and when I bought these kites in the kite shop, and I got the look, and I thought, well, somebody else can build this stuff, I can too. This one, this is my very first one that I made right here. And so Mom had an old sewing machine, and I dug that out, and I got some fabric, and it's like, oh, I can do that. I just take 3 or 4 rolls of fabric, and it's the same cloth that you see on the big sailboats with the big colorful sail out in the front. You just roll along, and voila, you got a piece. And what we do is make just a whole pile of them, and then we just keep adding them up till we get kites. There's times where I'll sit down and I'll sew for, 6 or 8 hours if nothing else is happening. And it just really isn't that hard. Pretty near everything will fly. You just have to work with it a little more than some of it. A lot of my stuff is like patchwork quilt stuff or pieces of stained glass. It's the same as the artist does with sculpture or painting. Some people paint on canvas. Well, I do fabric work, and it's a piece of artwork. It just isn't on canvas, and it isn't hanging on a wall. It's flying in the air. Peaceful. You're out in the fresh air. You're usually out where it's nice. Kite is just kind of floating around in the sky, and I always say it just that kite line just pulls the nastiness out of you and takes it off to somewhere where it needs to go. Everybody asks, where do you fly kites? Oh, I fly kites anywhere. A lot in the winter. Lakes are frozen over, and most of the lakes don't have trees in them. So all of a sudden, you've got an automatically big open field with no trees. We do a lot of kite festivals in the wintertime. Clear Lake, Iowa, we do one in the middle of February, and that attracts about 9,000 people from 5-state area. It's awesome. It's awesome. And the amount of color and things that we put in the sky. We just literally filled the sky with so much color you couldn't believe. And people had the best time that I've ever seen, and I've been to a lot of big kite flies all over the country. And in here we've got over 1,200 kites. These kites don't gather dust. Some of them may have not been flown for a year or two, but somewhere along the way they come out and get used either for a display or for a fly somewhere. When I go to a festival, I load a few things up because I never know what I might find for wind conditions, so I got a few spares. Well, I kind of picked up the name Mr. Kite, kind of added a little class, you know. One of the guys that I worked with says, "Oh, you should have a tuxedo." And the thing was kind of floating in the back of my mind. Well, both of my folks worked for Byerly's grocery store, and they had their 25th anniversary, and they had gotten tuxedos for all their demo people that weekend. The customers took on a whole different attitude towards the demo people. The demo people took on a whole different attitude amongst them. All of a sudden they were dressed up and they were proud of what they were doing that day. 2 weeks later I had a tuxedo, and that was the start of the tuxedo and the top hat. I've went through 3 tuxedos already, and on the second top hat, and yes, it is a mark. Okay, this first picture here is in front of Nordstrom's department store out at the Mall of America. And that part I decorated with tropical fish. Just hung the place full of kites one night. That kite display was up for 10 days, and it's one of the longest displays that they've had hanging at the Mall of America. And then we went and done the rotunda area, the main part of the Mall of America. There was actually 3 layers of kites all the way down, and we probably hung close to 250 kites in that area. And it took huge kites to make a real statement in there, and it did. It was absolutely awesome. Oh, no, I never grew up. I'm still just a kid. 68 going on 15 or 16. Peekaboo. Lifelong, yeah, desire of enjoying toys. Just a kid at heart.